You're listening to an archived Cabral Concept podcast. After listening to this show, check out the most up-to-date podcasts available at stevencabral.com/podcasts or search directly on iTunes. And now, welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
Welcome back to the Cabral Concept. I'm Steve Cabral, and today on a Total Wellness Tuesday, I have some really amazing, what I think is amazing, breaking news in the cancer research. So it almost seems like every day with cancer research out there, we're finding more and more natural components of healthy living that are leading to cancer breakthroughs that are helping people treat cancer, kill cancer cells naturally. The newest one that they've found is a component of olive oil. So it's a compound in olive oil called oleocanthal. And oleocanthal actually works inside of the body when you digest olive oil to break down the bilipid membrane of cancer cells. So let me back up a little bit. What does all this mean? Well, it means like every cell in your body has this fatty layer to it on the outside, every cell. And it's contained basically with, it's called a bilipid membrane. It just means there's a fat on the bottom and a fat on the top. And everything has to pass through it for permeability. So what happens is, olive oil is pretty unique. It's called a monounsaturated fat, and it has very specific compounds in it. One of those compounds we just mentioned was the oleocanthal. This was specifically looked at and targeted because what it was able to do was this. This is actually pretty amazing. When you go through chemotherapy and radiation, you are killing some cancer cells, but you're also killing healthy cells as well. And that's kind of like the problem, right? It weakens your body, breaks you down, and you're hoping that you kill all the cancer cells before you actually kill your own body. And it's kind of it's a really archaic, brutal therapy we have right now. However, I will say for some people, it is a life-saving thing that they do go through and they get the results that they want. But right now, we're just not doing it as targeted as I would like to see. I just think it's a little barbaric to kill the body, or to bring it to the point of death to save it then from cancer. But again, everyone's just doing the best they can, right? So for a lot of people, the success rate is actually high for some types of cancer treatments out there. I obviously prefer to go the natural route. However, in some cases, when you have an 80-90% success rate, it's hard to argue with people saying like, well, I'd like to go with 80-90% success rate. Again, I'd like to try natural methods first, and if you want to go that route, that's your choice. But that's not what today's all about. Today is talking about a natural compound in olive oil that actually tells the cancer cells to die. Literally, it kills them. So there's a process called apoptosis. And when natural immune systems in the body find a cell that they don't like, necrotic tissue, whatever it might be, it can send through certain immune cells, CD8 cells, different things like that, immune-based cells, to trigger something called apoptosis. And it literally means cell death. It tells the cell to kill itself. Well, these oleocanthal compounds in olive oil actually pierce through the fatty layer of cancer cells and create that same type of cell death. This, to me, is a pretty amazing breakthrough because it's just the start. It's just the start of using all natural-based substances to treat the worst of the worst diseases out there. And one of the reasons why I also find this fascinating is because they're finding things like turmeric and ginger and all of these other compounds as well that are also killing cancer. So imagine putting together a natural treatment protocol that uses so many different devices and sides and different attack methods to kill cancer naturally. So we have green juicing, we have coffee enemas, we have the natural herbs like the ginger that we talked about, the turmeric, all of those specific ones. Then we have the immune modulating ones like IP6 and others. And now we have natural compounds just found in, guess what? Mediterranean diet lifestyle. Mediterranean diet, again, there is no one diet for every person, but if you're leaning in one direction, moving towards a diet like the Mediterranean diet, I mean, you almost just can't go wrong. What are you doing? You're eating lots of good vegetables, you're eating some fruits, you're eating some nuts, you're using olive oil, you're eating some fish, not a lot of heavy meats. It's such a great foundation for people to start at. And now with more and more research coming out with the benefits of olives or olive oil, it is something that I would recommend you start to look at least maybe adding a handful of olives into your diet on a daily basis or every other day basis. I think that's totally fine. I actually use olive oil myself as a dressing. I wouldn't necessarily recommend cooking with olive oil, although stable to basically a medium heat, somewhere around 300 degrees. You don't want to cook with it on a high heat. It's not heat stable. It is still what's called a monounsaturated fat, which means it's those basically carbon layers are not fully saturated. So you are going to want to be careful that you don't over-oxidize the oil and create more free radicals, which again is only more inflammatory, not inflammatory. I like it to be used and drizzled on after you're done cooking, not necessarily before. So I did want to bring this research out to you today. Of course, I'm going to be covering more of this research and where you go with it, just because, again, I do feel like there is so many natural anti-cancer based benefits out there. And if you don't have cancer, well, that doesn't mean that this show is not for you. It means that, well, if we're looking at 50% of the people in the future may end up with some form of cancer, now is the time, well, you don't necessarily have the outward display of cancer to start working on all those little carcinogenic based cells or cancer based cells in your body actually forming all the time. Where our immune systems are strong, Th1 and Th2, the two sides of our immune system, are killing those cancer cells. Well, that's fantastic. But again, they need our help. Let's give them the help they need. Let's eat an anti-inflammatory diet. Let's get those good fruits and vegetables. Let's do our detoxification. Let's do our manual of drainage. Let's do all of those things to keep ourselves healthy. And now one more thing is we can look towards good, healthy fats like olives and olive oil, those monounsaturated ones. Wouldn't be surprised if they found one maybe in avocado as well. But let's stick with what we do know. And this oleocanthal in olive oil does seem promising. Here's the upside I always say is that, let's say it's not the cure for cancer, right? It's been shown now to help kill cancer cells through this thing called liposome or lysosome permeability. So basically what they do is they take this membrane around the fat, they make it more permeable, able to be destroyed. Now, let's just say that it's not the end-all be-all, right? Okay, no big deal. Guess what? What's the harm? There is no harm. You're adding now some olives or olive oil, this anti-inflammatory fat, to your diet that's going to be good for your joints, good for your hair, good for your skin, good for your overall pain, good for your energy. All of those things, there is no downside. Why not add a tablespoon or two of olive oil per day, or just a handful of olives again as well. Some people like to lean more towards, again, the most natural form, which is, of course, olives. It's something that my grandparents, of course, have used for generations and then handed down to all of us through that, Portuguese and Italian and all the other million nationalities that I am passed out from generation to generation. So it's something that we, of course, love to use in our family, and I do hope that you can experience some of those benefits yourself, just some switching from some of the heavier fats or maybe even vegetable oils, which we talk about that we don't like, to using olive oil in your own diet. And I think that is enough for today on this topic. Please do go use some of these tips on your own to live a healthier, more well lifestyle. I'll talk with you soon.
Before you go, I wanted to share a personal story with you. The real reason I began to get well finally is because I figured out what was wrong with me. And that might seem pretty obvious, but I went from doctor to doctor for over 2 years before discovering at-home functional medicine lab testing. These are the labs that enabled me to finally figure out what was wrong with my hormones, blood sugar, electrolytes, and gut health. And once I knew what was wrong, I could then follow a proven plan in order to rebalance my body from the inside out. This is why I believe so strongly in functional medicine lab testing and why I've made it my mission to share these labs with the world. Now at equa.life, you can order an at-home lab test or a lab bundle for you and your family and be able to complete it within the week. Plus, the EquaLife difference is that you're not left to try to read and figure out these labs on your own. We explain what your lab numbers mean, what they mean in the much bigger picture, and then how to go about rebalancing your body in order to heal. To see our full selection of lab tests or to set up a free lab selection call, To find out what labs may be best for you, simply head on over to equa.life/labs. And do remember, we ship these all over the world. To find out more and to set up your free lab selection call, simply head on over to equa.life/labs. That's EQUI.LIFE/labs.